What was the tragic tale of the very first Sith Emperor? Greetings again, Acolytes, and welcome back to the Archives. In 6900 BBY, the Sith Order would officially be born, when the Dark Jedi exiles would arrive on the world of Korriban. This set in motion the chain of events that would lead to the long succession of Sith Lords that plagued the galaxy for thousands of years to come. From the moment of the Sith's inception, they were bent on studying the dark side, gaining power by any means necessary, and ultimately subjecting the entire galaxy to their rule. All of this can be traced back to one man. That man was Ajunta Pall, the very first true Dark Lord of the Sith. The information on Ajunta's life is scarce. It is told to us through second and third-hand sources and accounts, information found in crumbling novels, and barely functioning holocrons, found deep within forbidden, long-abandoned tombs. But what we do know is that by the end of his life, Ajunta Pall had come to regret ever creating the Sith as they were, and he spent centuries post-mortem in utter anguish over his decisions. So join us today as we uncover the ancient past once more and tell you the story of the first ever Sith Emperor and how it was a complete and utter tragedy. Most of our records here today come from the Journal of Sorzis Sin. Sorzis was one of Ajunta Pall's followers and one of the original 12 Dark Jedi. According to her, in 7000 BBY, the Jedi Master Ajunta Pall would begin experimenting with the Force, namely in the realm of alchemy, discovering the secrets of life itself and gaining dominion over it. Ajunta gained a following within the Jedi Order from these experiments, and they claim to have paddled into the Force's expanse, gaining powers no Jedi could ever dream of. What Ajunta Pall had, though, led him steadily into the draw of the dark side, and Ajunta either did not care or he was blinded by this power. The Jedi Order deemed their discoveries to be an abomination, as the Jedi are meant to protect and preserve life, not to warp and manipulate it. From here, they attempted to bar off Ajunta Pall's teachings, which in turn enraged the Jedi Master and his now many followers. Shockingly though, according to the Journal of Sorzis, it was first the Jedi who would raise arms against Ajunta, claiming that it was their duty to destroy the dark side in all of its forms. Sorzis Sin says the war could have been avoided, but there are in fact conflicted accounts and histories, and the Jedi Order themselves claimed that Ajunta was the one that declared war on them out of anger. Even the spirit of Ajunta Pall himself did not know what exactly happened, and he couldn't remember whether they acted or whether they were discovered. History may never know who struck the first blow in this long war, whether it was the dogmatic Jedi or the rebellious Dark Jedi. But either way, the Second Great Schism was now in full effect, and the kickoff to the 100-Year Darkness began. Of all of the wars documented in all of Star Wars lore, the 100-Year Darkness is one of the most important, at least explained in history. Sorzis Sin makes passing references to such battles as when the Dark Jedi won a victory on the world of Belmora, wherein she used her alchemical monsters, which she called Leviathans, to break down the barricades and run roughshod over the Jedi defenders. The Leviathans that Sin had developed were gargantuan creatures made of dark side magic, which could absorb the life force from Jedi and house it within skin blisters. There were legions of them which killed many Jedi before they were eventually hunted to extinction. These monstrous, twisted creatures were a staple of the 100-Year Darkness, as they bolstered the ranks of the Dark Jedi, who were inferior in number to the main Jedi Order. But along with the alchemical beasts, it was said that they used force-based battle tactics, some of the first in recorded history. This was mentioned in the Trap of Flukawa, which the Jedi Order almost defeated the Dark Jedi Brethren, had it not been the force-centered tactics around Karnus Mur, one of the most important Dark Jedi. But the war didn't end here, and according to scattered evidence, there were possibly even battles carried out on Coruscant, Alderaan, Rafa 5, as well as lightsaber crystals from these worlds could be found in the tomb of Ajunta Pall and the ancient Sith Lord Tula Kord. There may even be a chance that the Dark Jedi had used the Starforge before. The entire time this war waged on, Ajunta and his Dark Jedi only steeped deeper into the darkness. Whether or not Ajunta Pall knew whether they joined the dark side intentionally or not did not matter, as they had now come to fully embrace it. They used alchemy to extend their lives just so that they could keep fighting for their brothers to the very bitter end. The biggest tragedy in all of this, though, is that even the Sith say that this could have all been avoided. But the bitter end of it all would come at the Battle of Korbos, which saw the end of the 100-Year Darkness officially. With the Leviathans now all but extinct, and the Dark Jedi numbers rapidly dwindling, Ajunta and his followers made a valiant final stand until they were cut down to only 12. There, they were forced to surrender and were led by a lightsaber point onto a shuttle, banishing them into the expanse of wild, unknown space. Ajunta, however, was not ready to give up, and he believed that there was a greater destiny waiting for them. Ajunta knew that they were meant to be gods, and the opportunity would present itself when they found the Sith species on the world of Korriban. Here, Ajunta knew his journey was not over. There, they would spend weeks learning the powers and the structure of the Sith people. Here they would come to learn that the Sith worshipped the dark side. Soon, the Dark Jedi would undermine their structure, and Ajunta Pall would establish himself as the leader by beheading their king, the Sith Hakagam Grosh, with his own sword, a weapon that Ajunta Pall would claim as his own and keep for the rest of his life. The Dark Jedi dazzled the Sith people with their powers in the Force, and set themselves up as a godly pantheon. The Dark Jedi then took the name the Gen Jedi, a Sith word which directly translated to overlords. The 12 even claimed to be the shadow hands of the ancient Sith king, King Adis, a being the Sith people revere as a savior. Soon, the Gen Jedi began to map out hyperlanes that linked to immediate Sith worlds, and reclaim the Sith capital on the frozen planet of Zyos. By here, the Sith purebloods had come to revere Ajunta Pall as an incarnation of Typhogem, the left-handed god. To the rest of the Dark Jedi though, he was their leader, the leader of the Sith Council, and this is when he became the first Dark Lord, known as the Gen Ari. It was from this point on that Sorza Sin and the rest of the Gen Jedi went on to study the people and learn of their secrets, the dark side itself, from old tomes of the old Sith kings. They learned how to use alchemy to crossbreed with people in order to create a line of succession, leading many of the Gen Jedi to spawn families of their own. It's possible that Ajunta Pall even had a family, and there is a chance that his direct descendant was actually Marka Ragnos. Soon, Ajunta Pall would come to understand the way of the Sith was a constant power struggle, the exact opposite of the Jedi, who lived in peace. Ajunta was constantly having to look over his shoulder and to keep an eye on the people who used to be his friends and followers. This first spout came when the Gen Jedi had a disagreement about returning to the Republic. Many Dark Jedi believed that they had enough power to launch a second attack on the Jedi, and thus reclaim their honor. But Ajunta refused, stating that they had a chance to build a new empire and return with overwhelming dominance. But according to this, not all of the members of the council would listen. Remulus Drapa went out on his own, taking an army to the Jedi, but ultimately failed spectacularly and was never seen by the wider galaxy again. From this point forward, more infighting began to happen among the Lords of the Sith, and it was here where Ajunta discovered the ultimate irony of the dark side, that one can never believe that they have enough power that they are ever satisfied. His spirit would say this: "We destroyed each other. We desired the secrets of each other to increase our power. We battled until finally our fortress rained down on top of us." It seems that although the Gen Jedi ruled the Sith Empire for centuries, they would eventually turn on one another in repeated feudal disputes. Jealousy and hatred consumed them, and they would eventually destroy themselves. It isn't exactly known how Ajunta died, but he would later confirm that he would be killed by his own sword. An ironic end, since the sword once belonged to Hakagam Grosh, and with it, Ajunta had killed him. In a cruel turn of events, Ajunta would suffer the same fate he had inflicted on someone else, and his sword would remain cursed because of this fact. As for whoever killed him, the histories do not say, but there is a suspicious amount of evidence that points towards none other than Tulak Hord. You heard me right. Tulak Hord likely killed the first Sith Emperor. But that, my friends, is a holocron for another day, if you would like. Ajunta Pall would be buried in the Valley of the Dark Lords, but although his body was dead, because of his alchemy, his spirit remained. For thousands of years, the lonely and melancholic spirit of Ajunta would roam this temple, going in and out of a deep slumber. He was lost, and with all that time, all he could do was think and reflect. His time of power was now over, and he came to realize that what the Sith Lords had thought was cleverness was really foolishness. All their power was really weakness. All their craving and schemes amounted to nothing. Ajunta Pall eventually came to deeply regret ever making the Sith Order, and he was ashamed at everything he had done. Ashamed that he had betrayed his Jedi Master and led others to destruction with him. When his spirit was awoken by the redeemed Revan exploring his tomb, the two had a long talk, one in where Ajunta Pall divulged the entire history, along with all of his regrets to Revan. It had been so long by this point that he could barely remember the details, and Ajunta hardly even remembered his own name. But he was full of regret, remorse, and sorrow. This is all that was left of Ajunta Pall. Though the Force was strong with his spiritual body, he didn't use any of his power. It all meant nothing to him. He only wished that he could apologize to his first Jedi Master, the one that he himself had slain. It was here when Revan revealed to him that the Sith were still around, and more powerful than ever. Ajunta Pall only said that the Sith had learned nothing. Luckily though, this story does have a happy ending. After speaking with the first Dark Lord of the Sith, Revan was able to guide him into forgiving himself, and Ajunta Pall successfully passed on into the Force, attaining the peace that he had long denied himself because of shame. In the end, the story of Ajunta Pall is tragic. He began as a Jedi who genuinely just wanted to know more about the Force, and spent his life serving it, only to stumble onto a power that he did not understand, one that corrupted him before he knew what he had discovered. He spent the rest of his long life setting up one of the most evil societies in the galaxy, and would die the exact way he lived, grabbing for power and stabbing others in the back. His tortured spirit lingered for thousands of years, thinking about nothing but his mistakes, until learning that because of him, the Sith Order was now alive, thriving, and well, wreaking havoc on the galaxy. Ajunta's last wish was just for his cursed sword to be taken away from his tomb, so that he would not have to be around the weapon that had been a symbol of evil for his entire life. A symbol of his failures. It's incredibly fascinating how the founder of the Sith did not stick to this way, a way that so many others did after they died. Ajunta spent his eternity in a tomb, not stewing in darkness, but mulling over mistakes. And although the Sith remain, Ajunta Pall at least got to pass on. But that, my friends and acolytes, was the sad tale of the first Sith Emperor. Tell us, what did you think about Ajunta Pall? Do you wish we knew more about the wars that he waged and the 100-Year Darkness? And speaking of that, are you interested in hearing about more of our theory of Tulak Hord and his mysterious lifetime? As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching today, and be sure to comment what other topics you would like to see us explore in Star Wars down below. And again, may the Force be with you always.